Hey there, everyone, and welcome back to the Rose Garden, your series where ideas take root, essays bloom, and your writing grows stronger every day. As always, I am Mr. Rose, your literary landscaper, here to help your ideas flourish. By now, you should have made it through the bulk of your essay. Your introduction is clear, your body paragraphs are structured and analytical, and you've taken that step to either compare or contrast your text effectively. But now it's time to bring everything together with impact. This episode is all about how to write a strong conclusion using a simple but effective structure, the TAG structure. But before then, I think it's important we have a discussion about why a conclusion matters. So, firstly, we need three key arguments, as you've had in your introduction as well. Your conclusion is your final opportunity to leave an impression on your marker. It shows that you've thought critically and holistically about your texts and your chosen concept. It proves that your essay was not random, every paragraph built towards a meaningful argument, and it leaves your reader with a sense of closure and deeper reflection. A key tip here is to think of your conclusion like the final note in a song. It has to sound complete and satisfying. So we're going to be using TAG to conclude. What does that actually stand for? So, T is our thesis restated. This is where we remind the reader of your main argument, but we just say it a little differently. Our A is our arguments that are revisited. We summarize your key points clearly and logically. And our G stands for our general statement. We end with a bigger idea about society, human nature, or why your analysis matters. Your conclusion should leave your reader with clarity and closure. You're not introducing anything new here. You're wrapping everything up with confidence and showing that your ideas were purposeful and well considered. You can see there on the price tag, I've got three reminders: no new evidence, no random new ideas, and just a strong, clear finish. That's what you need to be effective in writing your tag. So let's start with our T. So we need to start our conclusion by restating our thesis statement. This is the main argument of your essay. But we need to do this in a slightly different way. Think of it as saying, here's what I've proven to you. So don't just copy and paste your original thesis. Instead, paraphrase it to show that your response has now developed and deepened. You can see on the screen there is my original thesis. In The Handmaid's Tale and 1984, Margaret Atwood and George Orwell show how control is maintained through surveillance, fear, and manipulation of language. My restated thesis goes that little bit step further. Throughout The Handmaid's Tale and 1984, Atwood and Orwell demonstrate that the preservation of authoritarian control depends on the deliberate use of surveillance, fear, and the manipulation of language to suppress individual freedom and independent thought. What this does is it signposts to my reader what I have proven. I've built the case and I've reminded you of my position. This reminds the reader of your position, but it also signals that the discussion has reached its conclusion. We then move on to our arguments revisited. We need to go back over the main points that you made in your body paragraphs. This isn't about listing them, it's about tying them together and showing how they work to support your thesis. When you write yours, try and weave your key ideas into 2 to 3 sentences that reinforce your analysis. You can see my example on the screen. Orwell presents a regime where citizens are relentlessly monitored and fear betrayal from even those closest to them, while Atwood depicts a society where psychological fear, ritualistic greetings, and passive surveillance are embedded into daily life. Both authors show that the control of language, whether through newspeak or Gilead's religious phrases, finalizes this oppression by limiting the very tools people have to think, resist, or hope. I've reminded the reader of what I have discussed throughout my assessment. And I've touched that a little bit further by saying why it matters. It's really important that you do the same with your A section. And lastly is our G. So we need to finish the conclusion with a thought provoking final idea, something that leaves the reader thinking about why your analysis is relevant beyond just your texts. So this might connect to a broader idea about society, maybe a modern day issue, or even a reflection on power, language, identity, or freedom. My example is on the screen there. I have written, as modern societies continue to confront increasing surveillance, political fear tactics, and the distortion of language in media and leadership, the warnings offered by Atwood and Orwell remain powerful and necessary, reminding us that the erosion of truth and personal freedom often begins long before we notice. This final statement gives your essay weight. It says, this matters, and here's why. So on the screen, I have given you example A and example B. This is on your screen to help you see that both are as effective as each other. So you can see just the different ways that a T is written, an A is written, and a G is written. So some final checklists. When you have written your tag conclusion, ask yourself these 5 questions. Have I reworded my thesis clearly and confidently? Have I summarized my key arguments smoothly without listing them? Have I finished with a thoughtful general statement that leaves the reader thinking? Have I avoided introducing any new ideas, examples, or quotes? And does my conclusion match the tone, depth, and insight of the rest of my essay? Your conclusion should feel like a full circle. You take your reader back to the big idea you introduced, but now with a deeper understanding. It's your last chance to show that you understand the text, your concept, and the bigger picture. Don't rush it. A strong conclusion leaves a lasting impression. Some final tips. On the screen are some final tips that may assist you. So, T.A.G gives your conclusion clear and confident structure. You need to restate your thesis with authority, summarize your arguments smoothly and logically, and finish with a broad reflection that leaves a lasting impact. You also need to show maturity and insight. Lift your writing from good to outstanding. Your last paragraph is that last impression, as I mentioned just before. Make it thoughtful, powerful, and complete. Well, that is it for writing conclusions with TAG. That is your thesis restated, your arguments revisited, and your general statement. It's simple, it's structured, and it's effective. I wish you all the best in writing your literary essay, and I hope that these episodes have guided you and allowed you to build that confidence to make sure that your writing is growing stronger and that you are able to feel confident with your work. I will speak to you next time. So until then, write strong, read deep, and keep thinking critically.